Hello and welcome to Cheshire Audio. Now then, you'll have heard me talk about Audite Acoustics in the past. Andrew's an absolute wizard when it comes to designing sort of isolation platforms, that sort of thing. And you'll sort of seen on the channel, for a while he's been sort of playing with the idea of speaker platforms, and there have been some prototypes. You'll have seen them at shows probably. I think he was at Cranage this year, possibly last actually. But certainly you'll have seen the equipment platforms, like the bridge, and there's various derivations of that as well. But the really exciting one for me has been the speaker platforms, because there's nothing out there really. There's been a few. I mean, Townsend have covered it, and there was a company called Sonority that covered it, all with their own little quirks, and not really a sort of really good solution that was easy to use and very, very effective and all that sort of thing. And I think basically Andrew's cracked it. I mean, the design that he's come up with is perfect, for particularly my demonstration room, works really, really well. And you will have seen, I've had one of the prototypes here for some time, to be honest. But now I've actually got all three, so you can see all the different sizes and the finalised sort of on-the-road versions, if you would. So what I'll do is we'll walk over and have a look. There's some quite interesting little tweaks he's done actually. He's obviously put a lot of time into this, as he always does. But yeah, it's quite interesting. So let's have a look at that. So there you go. We've got the Phaenon 1 over here, Phaenon 2, Phaenon 3. I'm assuming I'm pronouncing that right. I'll explain what these little bits are down the front here later on in the video. So dimensions, just to sort of, so you can work out what's going to work in your system. Phaenon 1, width is 25 centimetres, so that's 25 centimetres, 35 centimetres. Phaenon 2s are, I'm going to have to read this now because I can't remember, 45 centimetres this way, 35 centimetres that way. And the Phaenon 1s are quite a bit bigger actually, they're 650, 500. So it covers most things really. Weight-wise, we've got 35 kilos, 45 kilos, 45 kilos. So again, covers most eventualities really. Yeah, what I'll bring some speakers up later on. I'll just show how everything sort of fits together and what they look like. Yeah, Andrew's spent an awful lot of time making these look sort of really domestically acceptable, because basically there's an awful lot of engineering going on in these. I mean, if you saw my original review, I think I had a prototype version of one of his equipment, the original bridge, and you could see a lot. If you got down and looked up from underneath, you could see all the sort of mechanism of how these work. They're really clever. They just look like 3 bits of MDF stacked together, but they're not. It's so much more than that. You'll notice that if you touch the top there, the whole thing rocks. Now this top plate is hanging from the bottom. Plays with your mind a little bit, the whole concept of that, but that's what's going on. And to actually hide that is taking a lot of clever design really. So they don't draw attention to themselves, they sit underneath your speakers, they just look like a little platform, but they completely transform the performance. And it's not just in the situation that we're in here where the floor's quite loose and it needs the bass sorting out. Even on solid floors, if you've got sort of concrete floors or like the bitumen flooring that quite often in UK houses, there's still a lot of low frequency information sort of going in and out of the floors in that situation. And things like this really do transform. It stops information going down out the speaker and across the floor into the equipment. It stops energy going into the floor, coming back up to the speaker and blurring everything. It's one of those products that if you get your system to a certain degree, to a certain point where the only way to improve it is to spend a lot of money on another bit of equipment. These are great because they take a really good system and just make it better. You're not buying another bit of kit, you're just improving what you've already got. Also, like in that situation in this room, awful floor, really help with awful floors, so you can actually use them to solve situations rather than just trying to buy your way out of it. Because a lot of people do that. They'll have a situation in a room, a bad acoustic or a loose floor or something going on, and they'll try and buy their way out by getting better equipment, and quite often dig themselves into a bigger hole because the better equipment is more affected by it. Buy the solution, buy something like this, something which will actually isolate the speaker, stop that energy loss, stop all the issues that can be caused by that sort of situation. Yeah, so as far as actually using these, there's different options. You would have thought you just stand the speaker on there, but no, there's options. I had quite a bit of discussion with Andrew in early days on this, when this was sort of being discussed and prototypes were out there, as to whether you would take the spikes off the speakers or leave them on. There's arguments for both ways, really, but in practice, it doesn't seem to have much effect. I mean, I know with things like Towns on Podiums, things like that, they seem to favour not having spikes, but these they seem to work brilliantly either way. I've done quite a bit of sort of experimentation with these, and it does seem to be the case. You don't really get any difference. The only time you sort of have to go with spikes is if, like with the what have I had here that I needed? The Audite Phaenons. They have to have the spikes because they've got a downward firing driver, so the gap beneath them is quite important. So what I use with those, and they're still on actually, little spike protectors. So put the spikes on, but tighten them right down, and just sit them on the spike protector, so that protects your platform, and the speaker's working as it should, and you get all your isolation on top of that. So that works really, really well. Anything that's got basically a flat bottom speaker, things like I'm trying to think of like a Fidia Mojos or any of the big Darleys or anything like that. What comes supplied with the actual production version of the Phaenon are these little polyurethane pads. Now we get with the twos, you get the orange one, and with the ones you get these little red ones, which are slightly smaller diameter. These are slightly stiffer because obviously the weight is 10 kilos higher on there. So they're basically matched in to whatever the weight is on there. Quite a good solution actually, because it means there's no sort of messing about leveling up. You just basically place them in the right position and sit the speaker on there. You'll have a little bit of wiggle room to manoeuvre the speaker to line it up. And it should self-level. So I think that's a great solution, to be honest. Not totally sure about the colours. Personally, I love it. I can imagine people saying, I don't want bright orange under my... Anyway, that's what we've got. So, I mean, you can put them quite inboard, to be honest, so you wouldn't necessarily see them. But I think it's a great solution, so I like that. Let's bring some speakers up, and I'll show you how this is going to look. Right, so what I've done... Phaenon 2s, I've put on a pair of solid steel stands. These are just a pair of Oberon ones, but which I think really see those stands. I mean, you'd never put those two together, but looks good. And what I've done is just using spikes. So that's just using the little spike protector on that. So that's one option. So you can use. Don't think you can't use speaker stands on top of these, because you can, because it's just as effective. Obviously, a speaker stand is isolating, but in a different way to the platform is. And then we've got a pair of neat Mystiques, which I've taken away the spikes, and if you have a look on the bottom there, you might just be able to make out. So any worries about seeing the colours? Somewhere under that, I can't even get it low enough. We've got little red pads, so works really well. I mean, obviously the neat's got its own little base, which is then sitting on the Phaenon, and if you rock it, it's quite a bit of side-to-side movement, but still very, very stable. Really, really good. So it actually looks like a part of the speaker, really. I think that's the joy of these, really. I think on their own, they look a little bit industrial, but if you put them, once you get them under the speaker, they look great. I think they really add to it. And yet, obviously, you're gaining a bit of height, but I think in most situations, it's not an issue. I mean, the little Mystiques kind of need a bit more height anyway. I mean, generally... The general rule of thumb is you would try and have the treble unit roughly at ear level when you sat down, but it's kind of give or take 6 or 7 inches really. It's not absolutely pinpoint important, and quite often speakers are a bit lower than they should be anyway. Particularly if you've got a treble unit sort of based at the top, treble at the bottom. Quite often a bit more height improves them anyway. So it's not. Some people have sort of expressed concern about that, but it isn't really an issue. You don't notice it. What you do notice is the better dynamics and the more 3D. Sort of sound from. I'm out of breath again. I'm always out of breath on videos. So yeah, I'm really pleased. I think they look great. I've done a bit of experimentation with different things on these, but yeah. Although the thing you'll notice is with the Mystique, I've just turned through 90 degrees, and I've still got the badge on the front there. So it's quite well thought through. Before I go, I thought I'd have a little look up from underneath actually. So this is Phaenon 1 turned upside down. So you've got the specially made feet. They're not just off the shelf, these, which use the little pads there, which is the same material as the little spacer pads that they use on the top, so it's got the right weight specs. So obviously we've got this is the bottom of the unit. That's the bottom of the top of the unit, if you can follow my logic on that. So if you look through, you can sort of see a sort of link between. So top of the unit links through and is fastened to this, and then the rest of it sort of hangs from cords. It's a really clever system, much more visible in the sort of equipment platforms and the early versions of the equipment platforms. But Andrew's very cleverly sort of hidden it now, so that this little tiny slot here, you can just about see through what's going on, but not totally, to be honest. But so basically, it looks a lot neater. But yeah, you can sort of get an idea of the build quality of this. It's not, like I say, it's not just 3 bits of MDF. There's a whole lot more going on here, a whole lot more sort of clever materials and clever methods to sort of get the best out of them. So yeah, there you go. Yeah, so hope you like that one. Apologies for the banging noises. I think the neighbours are knocking all the plaster off on the inside walls, and they must be using an extremely big hammer, because I don't usually hear anything from next door at all. So sorry about that. If you want to see more details, the phenoms, the prices, etc., if you go onto my website, there's and look at, I'm trying to think where it's on now. There's some links across the top, and I think there's one that says like accessories and miscellaneous. I should know this, shouldn't I? And if you follow the links for the isolation platforms, that sort of thing, they're all on there. So you got satin black, satin white, and all the different sizes and prices. Also, the bridge and the sort of equipment platforms from Audite are on there as well. So, which are really interesting. If you've not experimented with things like that, and you want to try anything, just let me know. I've got pretty much the whole range now. So, if you want to borrow one for a weekend, just come and let me know. And you will not bring it back. Seriously, you won't, because they all work really, really well. Yeah, that's that for that. Can I just say, I actually talked about last video about the buy me a coffee thing. Sort of people who talked to me and sort of almost requested a way of paying me something for helping out with system recommendations where they can't come in to buy and they've bought it somewhere else, or they're abroad and they can't buy it from here, or they've fixed the turntable using one of the videos. And I just said, well, if you want to, there is a buy me coffee. If you go onto the website, first page, go to the buy me a coffee link. I've almost had enough through on that to buy a couple of months at Starbucks. Really appreciate it. Thanks for some very generous donations, some very generous comments as well, actually. So thank you very much for doing that. I really, like I say, really appreciate that. Completely overwhelmed by it, to be honest. I've got some lovely people who sort of follow me, and it's a beautiful thing. So thanks very much. I'll leave it there. I'll start filling up. Don't forget to subscribe and like, and I will see you in a future video. Thank you very much.